Hello. In this video, we'll learn about contracting approaches, or another way of calling them payment schemes. So today we'll learn about what are the available payment schemes and how contractor profits and overhead for different payment schemes is calculated, and also understand the risk extent of for the owner and the contractor under different payment schemes. So payment schemes or contracting approach is one of the three things that a project acquisition strategy will entail. So when you, an owner for a project, make a decision about the project acquisition strategy, one of the things they need to decide about is how they're going to pay those parties who are involved in the project, like contractor and architect. But mostly here we're covering the payment schemes that are applicable to, for contracting or construction. For me here, it's both ways are fine: contracting approach, payment scheme. But if you read online or different texts, you'll find some people use contracting to refer to project delivery systems. So like they will write an article about contracts and they will refer to design build or design bid build. So I feel more comfortable referring to the material here as payment schemes, because this is more clear here. It's about how people are getting paid, how contractors are paid in a construction project. So here, this is the big picture. This is how we can organize our thoughts here. Payment schemes can be categorized as competitive bidding. So these are used in hard bids, and those who are used in negotiated contracts. So in competitive bidding, you have lump sum and unit price, and negotiated contracts, they are typically cost plus something. So we'll cover now each one of these payment schemes. So the first one is the lump sum. People also call it stipulated sum or fixed price. So it's just a fixed amount of money that's paid to the contractor for the total scope of the contract. So you can see here, this chart here, we'll see it over and over again for different payment schemes we'll see. But think about it, this is the horizontal axis. Here's the different scenarios, possible scenarios for the actual cost of the project. And then the vertical is a dollar amount that you can plot the actual cost, which is now kind of, you can see here, it's kind of a line with a 45 degrees. So with an actual cost of 80,000, this will be 80,000. So this dotted line here is the cost curve. But then the price, or the actual payment, how much the contractor is getting paid for, is the solid line. And in case of the lump sum, it's a fixed amount. It's a regardless of how much this project cost the contractor to finish, they will always get paid this fixed amount. So this means that at some point there is a point, a break even kind of point, where before it there is profit. So if the contractor manages to finish this project below the price or the fixed price of the contract, they will make profit. If the cost goes really south and they go above the stipulated sum or the fixed price, then the contractor here will be losing money. So let's define more here. What do we mean by a price or payment? So how the contractor is getting paid for what? It's the cost plus markup. So whatever cost they do for the work plus the markup. In the case of fixed price or lump sum, this payment here is fixed. It doesn't depend on the cost. It's not related. This function is not really visible for the relationship between the owner and the contractor. So the contractor will calculate the price based on this formula, but the owner doesn't see how this formula works in the lump sum delivery or in the lump sum payment scheme. So now the cost will include the cost of everything that goes into delivering the project: material, labor, equipment, and subcontractors, and also indirect costs. We'll not go into details. This is part of the cost estimating course. But you can read more about these. But typically, you know how much things will cost you, and then you add on top of that the markup, which includes any overhead that's not included in the indirect costs, so like site overhead, office overhead, sorry, and then contingency and profit. So we'll cover more contingency later in this course, and profit is self-explanatory. So here in the lump sum, contractor is if they committed a mistake in estimating, so and everything is clear from the owner side, the contractor will have a hard time reclaiming that cost overrun if the owner did their job in providing the information, complete information that's needed. So I miscalculated the cost calculation for myself. I cannot go to the owner and say, I miscalculated, please pay it. So this is why it needs here detailed definition and breakdown of work scope. So you have to really know what's being built here, because you're going to commit as a contractor to a fixed price. And this means that you need to have a complete set of drawings and specifications, and also how this lump sum being broken down into little payments that need to be defined, and also to avoid any conflicts, you need to have little variations and changes in the quantities. So you need to have really accurate information as much as you can. And theoretically, this lump sum can be applied for different type of project configurations, delivery systems, design build, or CMAR, construction management at risk. So from what you heard, like we did with the delivery systems, you can pause here a little and think about what is a good thing and a bad thing about lump sum. You can watch the whole video and then come back here and think about positives and negatives of lump sum. And we'll discuss that in class. So the next here is unit price. So for unit price contracts, the bidder enters unit rates against estimated quantities of work. So you are not committing to a total big number here. You're committing to little numbers that are associated to different work items that you know that you're going to do for this project. So the units of work here refer to maybe a specific construction activity. So you can price every cubic yards of excavation that you'll do, or pavement, or it can be you're pricing here the units of the completed product at the end. So for every foot of the road, which includes the sub base, the pavement, the finishes, the markings, and all of that, you can give a price for every foot of that, linear foot of that. So that can be one way of doing the unit price. But typically, the unit prices are done for specific construction items. The point here is you're committing to the rates, not the quantities, and which means that you're not committing to a lump sum. You're committing to the cost rates or the price rates of different quantities. The quantities can change, and this means during construction you're going to remeasure these quantities and readjust the contract price. But what's not being adjusted here is the unit price itself. So the payments are made monthly based on that, and the idea behind your price is that you're sharing risk with the owner here. So the owner assumes the risk of uncertainty in quantities, but they know what will need to be done, but they don't know how much of each work scope will be done. So they know that they will have excavation, they will have concrete, but they don't know how much exactly excavation will be needed. On the other side, contractors here assume the risk of the increased cost of individual items. So they will mainly focus on what construction methods to be used in this project, which will be translated into unit price, but how much will be the quantity, that's the risk for the owner to handle. Now there is one caveat here. If the quantities that are given as estimated values in the bid process are completely different than what it is in reality, so this quantity variation here is more than 15 to 25%, that change here, then the contractor is entitled for a change in unit price. I want you also to think, why would be this, what would be the reason for that? Why would be that a significant change in quantities will justify changing unit prices? Think about it, maybe search Google for possible reasons, and then we'll discuss that in class. Unit prices require a lot of things similar to the lump sum, but they're not that strict. So you need to know some adequate breakdown of work packages, what need to be done, but not in quantities, but in terms of scope. You need to have some design documents to tell you what need to be done, but exact quantities are not needed, and this is why you need to have good quantity surveying and reporting systems. So you have to have someone on the site really measuring what's being done. So that's very critical unit price projects. It's very suited for heavy projects, heavy construction projects like roads and dams, because they're typically involve the same scope, but the quantities are different. And it's depending on the site conditions, quantities can change, and this is why you would let the quantities to change during the project. This is just a quick example here of how you price, come up with a lump sum value, which is kind of the one that's used to pick the lowest price better, by following the scheduled quantities or estimated quantities that may change and will be accepted to change during the actual project, and then the fixed unit prices that are committed by the bidder here. So the bidder commits to that and then uses these as guiding quantities to calculate now the initial value of the contract. So thinking about the unit prices, what we discussed so far, think about the good things and the bad things, and we'll discuss that in class. Now we covered this side, the competitive bidding. Let's move on to the negotiated side. So negotiated contracts and payment schemes are better for complex, high-risk projects that would discourage any contractor to commit to a lump sum or even a fixed price contract. So negotiated here means that the owner will share some of the risk by reimbursing the contractor for the cost of the work plus something, or the fee here. Now the fee can be used to recover the contractor overhead and also their profits. And because of that, now this cost plus setup, you need to know the cost as an owner. So this needs transparency. So everything that the contractor does, kind of you show the receipt of things. You report the actual cost, and then you get paid your fee on top of that. And because it's negotiated, that gives flexibility to the owners asking for or dealing with design changes in the future. Because whatever change comes, this means that the work will be different. So whatever cost will come out of that, the contractor will be paid for it plus the fee. Now this fee plus fee, this fee is calculated based on what? So we have here 4 ways: as a percentage, as a fixed fee, or as a fixed fee plus something else, plus some kind of incentives or strings attached to it, like guaranteed maximum price. So the first one is the cost plus percent of the cost. So the fee here is calculated as a percentage of the cost. So here, whatever cost you incur, you will add a fee as a percentage of that. So it's a very simple concept. So it's just the contractor initial return on cost here when they start the project is 8% of 100,000. So so one thing also here that we see that the return on cost is always fixed, because the return itself, the profit or the fee here, will be 8% of the cost. Return on cost is equal to the return divided by the cost. Return on cost. And you can see it's always going to be 8% under this cost plus percentage. Now let's, in this example here, which we'll solve in class, what will be the situation of the cost here is different, which is expected. Your estimated cost here is just an estimate. So what would be the situation of the actual cost is 90,000, and what will be the case if it's actually 110,000? We'll solve this in class, but this plot here will kind of generalize what you will find from the example, is that this is the curve for the cost. It's a 45 degrees, again, line. Whatever value you enter here, you will be kind of plotting it as a cost, but then the price will be something above the cost as a percentage. And you can see now graphically it will look like the two lines are departing. So this means that the greater the project actual cost, the greater the contractor profit amount. So this means it's a percentage. So if the base increases, the cost increases, the fee will increase as a percentage because it's related to it as a percentage. But always this percentage will be fixed, which means that the return on cost ratio will always be fixed. So it's kind of a free risk project for the contractor. I submit my receipts, I get my fee on top of that, and then there's no risk, right? So thinking about that, try to come up with good things and bad things. Good things for the owner and contractor, and bad things for the owner and contractor. Now let's see a little variation here. So instead of cost plus a percentage fee, it's now a cost plus fixed fee. So the owner will pay the contractor the actual cost plus a fixed amount they will agree on. The cost can change in the project, but always the fee will be fixed, regardless of the actual cost. So if the estimated cost at the beginning of the project is 100,000, and now instead of agreeing on 8%, you're agreeing on a fixed amount, 8,000. So your return on cost here will be 8% initially. But what will happen if when you do the project, you end up here with actual cost of 90,000, that's one scenario, and then ending up with 110,000, that will be another possible scenario. What will be the return on cost and the actual contract price or payment to the total payment to the contractor in this case? This is an example, again, we'll solve in class, but if we want to generalize and kind of in a graphical way, the line now are not like starting from zero and departing, diverging like that. It's actually now parallel lines. So whatever the difference always between these two lines will be the fixed fee, which means that the contractor will not lose money for any reason. They will always get this fixed fee. But the greater the project actual cost, the less the contractor return on cost. But the contractor profit amount or fee amount here is fixed. So it might seem good news, but from financial perspective, your return on cost as a contractor is actually diminishing, is going lower and lower the more this project costs at the end. So thinking about good things and bad things. And we'll discuss that in class. Now we'll see some strings attached here. So the cost plus fixed fee, we kind of owner recognize that might be an issue fixing the fee, but let's give kind of a carrot and a whip kind of a mechanism here. So cost plus fee, but plus trying to incentivize the contractor here by sharing any cost savings with respect to a target cost. But also the contractor will be entitled to share any loss if they don't achieve the target cost. So this is the formula here. The actual price or the actual payment that the contractor will get equals to the actual cost plus the fixed fee plus delta C, which is the difference in the cost, times whatever share of the contractor of that. So delta C, it has to be in this order. Target cost minus actual cost. Target cost is something that also the owner and contractor negotiate minus the actual cost. So this means that in this order, if this value delta C becomes positive, this means that the actual cost is less than the target cost, so it's savings. So the payment will be increased by the share of that savings. But if it's negative, then the payment will decrease. So good news and bad news kind of in the same package. The percentage is another thing that the contractor will negotiate with the owner. So there are three things that the contractor will negotiate: the target cost, the percentage of the share, and the fixed fee. That's kind of going back again to an example. So you're agreeing on a fixed fee, but also you're agreeing on a percentage of sharing the profit and loss, and then you're also agreeing on the target cost. It's not like a guiding value anymore. It's part of the contract to agree on a target cost. That will be the basis of calculating the delta C value. And now the same thing. What would be the situation of the actual if the actual cost ends up to be 90,000? And if the actual cost ends up to be 110,000. When we solve that, we'll get an idea what's really happening here, but we can plot here a graphical representation of what would be the generalized understanding of what would be the cost plus fee plus profit loss sharing payment mechanism. So you can see here that at lower actual cost values, the contractor is achieving a lot of profit here until the lines break even at some point. So if this project here, the estimated target cost of 100,000, so this is the actual cost here, this will be the line of the actual price is this. So what will be the difference? That's a question we can discuss in class. What's the difference between the price line and the cost line at this point when the actual cost is equal to 100,000? Think about the values that are given in the problem. What would be this difference? And also, what would be this point? This is the intersection between the price and cost. This is the break-even point. This is where the contractor will have no return on cost. The payments will exactly equal to what the project costs actually for the contractor. But how to find this point? That's kind of a algebra kind of problem, but we will find out how to do that. So in class, we'll also discuss good things and bad things. Please come up with ideas to discuss. The last thing we'll cover here is similar to the profit loss sharing, but now we're adjusting that a little to be guaranteed maximum price by having a ceiling on how much the contractor will be paid. Kind of having a guarantee for the owner that the project will not cost more than that. Because if we go previously here, there's no guarantee, there is no ceiling. This price line can go over, forever increase. That's a high risk thing for the owner, but the owner wants always to commit. Remember the previous lesson, one of the objectives of the owner is to have a budget set with no much change to it. So that's satisfying this objective, having this ceiling on guaranteed maximum price. Some guaranteed maximum price also add the provision of sharing savings, the savings from a target cost value, but there is no now loss sharing because you already now imposing that ceiling on the contractor. So now this is the revised equation. The actual price or the actual payment that the contractor will get at the end, by the end of the project, will be equal to the actual cost plus fixed fee plus cost savings. But there is a if condition here. If this actual price is less than the guaranteed maximum price, so the contractor total payment will be equal to that actual price. But if this actual price formula brings a value that's more than the guaranteed maximum price, so the contractor total payment will be limited by the guaranteed maximum price. And the cost savings here, this cost saving in the formula here, is equal to the target cost minus actual cost, the same thing we have seen before. But if it brings a negative value, you ignore it. So it's only bringing positive values here. You only consider positive values for this cost savings formula. So that's the last example we'll see, and kind of we see here, you agree on a target cost, a fixed fee, you agree on a guaranteed maximum price, kind of guaranteed maximum price is equal to the target cost plus the fixed fee, and you agree also on how much percentage of savings the owner will be willing to share with the contractor. So initially here you can see the contractor initial return on cost would be equal to 8% of the if the cost will be the target cost. So it will be 8%. So it's 8,000, the fixed fee divided by the 100,000. Let's see here. In this example, we'll see the three scenarios, not two scenarios. If the actual cost is 90,000, 105K, and 110K. When you do that, we'll get a generalized understanding now of this graphical representation here, that this is the ceiling here. But the contractor can be paid less than that, which is not a bad news. Actually, if you get paid less than the guaranteed maximum price, this means that you're actually achieving a return on cost higher than 8%. Once you reach a point, which is here, when the actual cost is equal to the target cost, this is exactly when return on cost will equal to 8%, the initial expected return on cost, because actual cost is equal to target cost. And then quickly after that, you're limited by the guaranteed maximum price. Your return on cost as a contractor will really slump after this, will really go down until a point now you're losing money quickly. So think about guaranteed maximum price as a good thing and a bad thing for both contractors and owners. And we can summarize all of that in a discussion in the class we'll have. which contracting approach or payment scheme is riskier? And you have to answer me with a question, which is riskier to who? Because again, risk is a pie, right? How much, it's the same pie, it's just how much you're going to split this pie between the owner and the contractor. So if you're going to put something like payment scheme here, this means that it's mostly a contractor risk and less risk to the owner. If you're going to put a rank here, the payment scheme, if you're going to put one here, that one here is putting a lot of risk on the owner, but not much risk on the contractor. Think about all the different payment schemes we covered, and we'll come in class and discuss what would be your thoughts in ranking these payment schemes in terms of being risky to both the owner and the contractor. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in future videos. Take care.